And is it important for them to get vaccinated by a certified vet?
That's a good question.
I would think that, especially if you're traveling, a lot of boarding facilities or even installations will not accept it if you're self-vaccinating.
Right. A lot of people self-vaccinate. I don't have a problem with self-vaccinating. There's some things you can't. Rabies vaccine is the major one. It has to be done by a licensed veterinarian. In most states. There's still a few states that allow private individuals to give their own rabies vaccinations.
Right.
The big key thing about a veterinarian giving the vaccinations is I'm not just going up and poking the needle in your dog. I mean, 10% of the time, clients will bring a dog to me and say, I need him vaccinated, and I'll see something going on with the dog that I don't want to give a vaccine that day, because maybe he's a little sick. Well, we're out at that end of that bell-shaped curve that I'm telling you about, that he's not going to respond real well to that vaccine. So I want him to get feeling a little better, get over that hump a little bit, and have his immune system boosted back up to when I give him that shot, he actually responds to it. There's vaccination and there's immunization. Vaccination is the method of pulling out the skin and putting the vaccine in. Just because I put the vaccine in there does not mean your dog is immunized. He's vaccinated, but he may not respond to it. So that's the deal is I want to make sure your dog is immunized instead of just vaccinated. Where if you have a veterinarian do it, they have the chance to look at the dog. Is there something going on? Is there a high probability this dog is going to respond to the vaccine? Is he completely healthy, or is there some other issues that we need to deal with?
And vaccinations that have to be refrigerated, what's the importance of making sure that they're regulated, that they're actually being refrigerated and cared for the way that they're intended to be?
Vaccines that aren't handled correctly do not work correctly. Some of the modified live vaccines, if they're not stored correctly, what happens with a modified live is I put a modified live vaccine in your dog, and it's supposed to go in the dog and grow. It's attenuated so that it cannot grow into the actual disease. The actual disease part of it has been taken out. But it's supposed to grow in there and develop an immune response. If that vaccine hasn't been taken care of correctly, that doesn't grow and it doesn't happen. I might as well be injecting sterile water in your dog. Killed vaccines are not quite as sensitive on that, but they also must be handled correctly. Expiration dates looked at, and in that time, the biggest mistake I see is vaccines that are left sitting on a desk somewhere, not refrigerated, not handled correctly. Sometimes dirty needles. People say, well, I can give this dog a shot with a needle, and this dog a shot with a needle, and this dog a shot with a needle. Well, that may be good for one dog, but the next dog you may pick up some bacteria on that needle and inject the bacteria into the skin of the next dog, and then you have an abscess develop where that vaccine was given.
Right.
It's not going to respond. The vaccine's not going to work. We have an abscess now that we have to take care of. So that's the big deal with vaccine handling is sticking to protocol, monitoring your vaccines, what temperature they're kept at, things of that sort.
Okay.
A lot of the companies out there are saying, well, we have a vaccine out there, and if your dog is vaccinated correctly, say for parvo. If your dog is vaccinated correctly for parvo and you've used our vaccine, we will take care of some of the diagnostic work for that pet. We will pay for some of that. If you're a layperson or the general public and you vaccinate your own dogs, the company's not going to stand behind that as strongly as if I do it. If I call them and say, I give this dog a vaccine, I give him 3 vaccines, and he's broken with parvo. We've diagnosed him with parvo. The company is probably going to come in, back me up, and pay for treatment on that dog. If you did it and they said, well, I bought my vaccine from Valley Vet and I give the shot. I'm not saying the company isn't going to stand beside it, but it's going to be a long, drawn-out process for you to probably get them to stand beside it, because they're going to have to go back and say, I need the lot number of that vaccine, I need to know when you bought it, what temperature did you keep it at, did you keep it up, you know, so you're going to have to go through and answer, be able to reliably answer all them questions for them to say, well, maybe there was a vaccine failure.
So we're not saying that the company that they purchased it from it was a bad vaccine. We're just saying that from once the company sells the vaccine to that individual, something can happen in
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So, you know, with me, they know that it's the company. I bought it from a supply house. Quality control measures are taken care of during the entire time. My vaccines come very well cooled. They come out of the cooler straight to the refrigerator. They're refrigerated all the time. I put the vaccine correctly in the dog. They're not gonna argue about that. Whereas if you did it, they may say, well, they may start asking all the questions. Because you're telling them that their vaccine didn't work. Does that happen sometimes? Yes, but very minimally. So it does happen, but if it's not done by a veterinarian, it's pretty hard to prove.
So I guess in this case, when you're weighing pros and cons, it's better safe than sorry, and just, you know, pay the vet to do it.
Right. A lot of people think they're saving money by doing it themselves. I would argue you might be saving a little money in the short run, but in the long run, if you look at the health of your pet, you're not.